4th of December. Okay, Saturday before 59 p.m. If you could submit earlier, that is okay. I will create the link in the e-learning later on. Okay. So what you need to submit, chapter 1 until chapter 4. Okay. So what are those? So I will share to you after this. Okay. From chapter 1 until chapter 6. Okay, so just send to me if you are here. Okay. I don't know whether after this, after week 9, perhaps you could come into the university and then you could submit hard copy, unless or just submit to me soft copy. Okay, so this one I will talk to you later. Okay. All right. So what in the front cover is basically, I think, most of the group, for example, submit the last assignment number 1 and assignment number 2, they did follow these things. Okay, you put logo, UTM logos, and then you mention School of Mechanical Engineering, course name and code, who is your lecturer name, and then name of your product. Atau ni tak ada lagi lah. So maybe what is the thing that you the product or device that you are develop, and then list of team member. Okay, this is front cover. I will put this one in e-learning later. Okay. So in terms of tables of content, formatting, please follow UTM thesis format, because for format there are marks for that. Okay. Even though there are, I think, how many marks, 2 or 3 marks, but some of that one is critical between B plus and A minus, A minus and A. So sometimes you got 73. So because of this formatting, you got 74. So 74 normally I will put as 75 lah. Okay, so in that way. Okay, so please include references in last pages. So that is why I always remind all of you, whatever you obtain, your research background, or maybe you're searching, please keep your link. You need to make your kind of logbook. So whatever information that you get from which sites, either websites or articles, journals, patents, newspaper, government policy, and so on. So please keep the references. Okay. All right. So I'm going to the chapter 1, known as problem statement, or we could identify as the introduction lah. Okay, for this report, introduction section, introduction chapter. Okay, so what are these in this introduction chapter? Basically, this format is similar for those who are taken the final year project based on design. Okay, if you take your final year project based on design, which is you take for example from me or another design lecturer. So normally this is our style of report lah. Okay, similar. Okay, so in the chapter 1, basically you need to put 1.1 introduction. This is overview of the chapter. Okay, what are inside of this chapter 1? What are the things that you are going to put in? Okay, what the elements that you want to state in this first chapter. First chapter maksudnya you buat overview lah. Dalam chapter in this particular chapter, I will discuss about research background, and I will discuss about problem statement, objective, scope of the project, significant of the project, and report structure, and blah blah blah. Okay, related to developing of this pump oil device and so on. So that's kind of overview lah. And then once we so this is not necessarily to put 1.2 problem statement. No, perhaps you start with the 1.0. Okay, introduction, and 1.1 is your research background. Okay, and then 1.2 problem statement, 1.3 scope of the project, and so on. Okay, to remind you again, I have posted and I have explained to you previously about the marking the marking rubrics and marking formatting. Okay, which means that if you still remember, in the phase one, we have this kind of introduction. In the research background, the mark will be evaluated based on individual. Okay, so you need to put all information in the report, but you may classify it. This is background. This will, for example, I think group one and group, which one, which other group, they put category based on the team member. For example, I think group Beza, I think group one. Okay, ergonomics. So they already key person on discussing on that ergonomics. So you just put your name and explain that. So I will mark based on your name for research background. Problem statement is a group. Okay. Okay. And then you identify scope of the project. This is the most important part. Okay. Even though, okay, may I know before I proceed with my explanation, may I know what is your understanding on the scope of the project? Can somebody voice out? Can somebody voice out what is scope of the project? What is scope basically? Scope of the project. What do we mean by scope of the project or scope of the research? Can somebody voice out? Focus of the project lagi? Any more?
Doctor, is it the solution ataupun the key areas that you state before this? We have three key areas, which is the cutting mechanism to reach and access the FFB, and evacuation or collection of the FFB. Is that the scope?
Yes. Also, that could classify as a scope. Basically, scope is simple. We could you refer to Siti mentioned just now, which is focus, or maybe the options that we have selected. Basically, scope is your boundary of the project. Okay, I always state this scope in terms of this. For example, in my room right now, okay, in my room, so there are a lot of things, right? So there are apa ni, apa nama, ada rak buku, ada kursi, ada chairs, glass, and so on lah, many more. Alright, so my scope, for example, uh, I will select my scope, whatever things are on the table, on my table right now, thing table. So this is basically my scope. Okay, I'll set my boundary. Whatever things are on my floor that will not consider my scope. So my scope is only what are things on my table. Okay, I've selected my scope. You could say as a focus. You could say this is my boundary. Whatever beyond, this is counted as my scope. Okay, you will find and PDS some points will be in the scope that you take from the PDS. That one is never mind to be. Your scope. And then last section is the report structure, overview of the whole report. So this is normally we put the design process. Okay, design phase. Okay, right? So you proceed to the chapter 2. Okay, chapter 2 is basically literature review. Doctor, what is the difference between research background and literature review? Can somebody voice out? I would like to know what is your opinion on this. What is the difference between research background and literature review? I think most of us after this you will go to the final year project report, your first report, FYP 1. So there are the same format. Okay, you need to state the research background and then also you need to do the literature review. Okay, what is the difference between literature review and research background?
Literature review is more towards like actual previous studies, 100% based on previous studies, literature review. But background is more general, it's more towards your project and the current environment. That's what I did for mine.
Okay. Okay, good, Nida. Any more?
The research background is more concerned about the history of the subject.
History of the subject.
Yes, while
Okay.
literature review is concerned with the latest fundings, like what are the latest things that they have already achieved on this subject.
Okay. Thank you, Anmar. Any more? Okay, I would say in a simple manner. So basically, research background is this summarization, your summary of literature review of the literature review you put in the research background. So basically, the details of research background are in the literature review. Okay, so means that you could complete literature review first and then you summarize in terms of research background also can be put in that manner. So that is why once we start with the bubble map. Bubble map is basically to give you a short overview of your of your current understanding based on the problem that you define. Okay, it's a basically short discussion. To be detailed on that particular on the single everything that you have put in the bubble map. So that one is in your literature review. You need to find who say this, which reference, how is the bug dimension, where is the point you are taking out. So what other people say. All of those things are in the literature review. The details of your research background or your bubble map, okay, are in the literature review. So that is the concept of between research background and literature review. So to be remembered, okay, again, we start with the section 2.1 here, okay, referring to the introduce the chapter, okay, to introduce the chapter. So what are the elements involved in this chapter? All right, so you, again, the content must lead to PDS. That is what I have mentioned a few times to you, that PDS is comes from your literature search as well as the research background. We could say that the one is similar based on your literature search. How do you get your sizing? How do you get your weight? How do you get the ergonomics value? How do you get the material property selected? So what are the peoples do? So that one all are in the literature review that leads to PDS. Okay, product design specification. Okay, for example here, current game, okay, weapon and defense technique or devices, assisting robot and interview with an expert. Also, you can put in the uh, literature review, which lead to the PDS. And not to forget, okay, before this PDS, you might include as well the objective 3. For example, just saying 2 point Y here, Y is referred to, for example, 15. Okay, 2.15 is the section PDS. You need to list out all the PDS. All the information in the PDS supposed to be the detailed part are in the literature review, the above section. Okay, the above subsection. Okay, so for example, 2.15 APDS, 2.14 you can put as your objective 3. Okay, clear? Alright, proceed. So this is chapter 3. Okay, chapter 3 will related to your morphological chart, the way you generate using the morphological chart. Alright, so again, 3.1 introduction, discuss the step in concept generation, which is discussed in this chapter. So what are the things involved? Okay, so first of all, you are conducting the function decomposition or functional structure. I could say that one is similar. Okay, and then by the way, this reverse engineering describe how the function is decomposed. So how do you classify? This is the first step, second step, and so on. Okay, it is better in rather than in a functional structure, you could define it in terms of what are the conversion energy involved, what are the conversion materials, conversion information. If you could detail on that particular part, that is more better lah. Supposed to be that is necessary, okay. So but somehow you need to have functional structure first, then you could discuss the detail of that particular part. Okay, this is 3.2 and 3.3. Okay, it is a search externally, which is related to product association, I have discussed with you what we meant by product association. So, for example, currently you are focusing on the palm oil tree. Okay, you find out how to cutting, how to reach the FFB and so on. So you might consider, rather than I'm looking on the palm oil tree, why not I'm trying to search on the apple tree, for example, lemon tree and so on lah. So you try how is the product they're using there. So you associate it with the current problem that you have. Okay, this is where we require at least for one each member. Okay, at the end, for example, 3.3 search externally. Okay, for example, name of Anmar. Okay, you put section Anmar. So Anmar find one pattern. Okay, one pattern or one product association lah. Either one is okay. If you can find both, that is better. Okay, this search externally section is not limited to only product association and patterns only. Whatever you find out, you outsource it through either a key person, which is we could identify as an expert in that area. You may interview with them. That also could consider as the search externally. Alright, so you want to find more things, okay, towards some information related to the project. So you search external, okay, explicit, okay. And then we go to 3.4, search internally. This is where describe the creative method you use. Okay. So what are the things you based on your brainstorming with your team, what are the eventually ideas, new ideas, okay, that you think that can be work. Alright. And then 3.5 is the concept combination tables. This is where morphological chart table is you need to put in here lah. Okay. And then reflection on the solution, and lastly the 3.7 concept sketches, concept generation or concept sketching by every individual. Okay, you means that every single person in your group need to propose their own solution based on morphological chart, based on the objective tree, based on morphological chart, based on functional structure, based on objective tree, based on PDS, and based on the bubble map that you have discussed previously. Okay, so you need to write your name inside of the your sketch paper, so that will let you know who done this. Okay, all right. So I will go into detail about this later. I will repeat again, recap again some points on the last lecture, so that you could further on with the concept generation after this. Okay, so and then the final chapter for the first draft is the chapter 4, related to the once you complete your concept sketching, every single person of you having the concept sketching, now we proceed with the concept evaluation. So with the concept evaluation, we would like to select which one is the best one, which concept that can represent your group, your team, final solution that could solve the problem statement that you have stated earlier. Okay, so in this thing, I will explain to you, okay, later about this, how to make the criteria and weight, how to make the concept scoring, concept screening, and so on. And then lastly, you need to develop the final concept sketching. Okay, so for first draft that you need to submit to me before 4th of December up to this chapter. Alright, so for full report, okay, chapter 5, this is the thing, element that need to be included about design analysis in details, because this is the huge mark for analysis, right? So initial design embodiment, after you sketch, you will need to body the sketching. So the sketch, we don't have any specific dimension or sizing and so on. So you need to make a sizing, okay, on this initial design embodiment. Then we proceed with the material selection. What is the material that you consider? So what about density and so on? So we would like to see the total of parts in your project. So we do the bill of materials, and then we follow with the design efficiency to check whether your current design is highly efficient or not. If not, then you need to re-improvise your current design. Okay, and then we look at on the DFMA, design for manufacturing and assembly using the functional analysis. And then we proceed with the FMEA, okay, failure mode engineering analysis. We need to identify the tendency of the failure, which location and which part. So what are the things that we could improvise in terms of design. And then lastly, engineering analysis, exactly similar with the component design. Every single part need to analyze. Alright. Lastly, chapter 6, prototype, which is virtual prototyping. You need to produce, you need to prove that all the function is working. Alright, and then produce the engineering drawing. Prototyping here, physical prototyping with a small scale. Okay, and then product demonstration. Okay, so like I mentioned previously, product demonstration will be kind of a nerf video. Okay, so that is the final one.
Betul.
Is there any question you would like to ask?
So,
Yeah.
so we need to fabricate the design lah.
Yeah, but in a small scale for this prototyping. Okay, about the funding about the apa nama
In small
ni,
scale.
small scale only. Dengar tak? Okay. So for this
Dengar.
prototyping, Sandabi have asked me to put some value, to put some number, what is the costing for this prototyping. Okay, so they would like to fund this prototyping ah. So in the next week, I think maybe next week or next 2 weeks I need to present there are a lot of projects that I'm dealing with the SMW right now. So one of it, these things. Okay, so I need to present to them and give some proposal to come up with the numbers of the costing for prototyping. So that is why I'm really required to look at your concept generation as well as your final concept, so that I could predict the value for the costing that will every single group come out lah for this prototyping. How much that will cost. So somehow I know, because you didn't come up with the design embodiment yet and so on, but I need to, we can figure out lah a certain amount. So this is really important. If I and also your group cannot manage to predict how much, and then I could say that your group will have less of apa nama ni, amount of money So that's why we need to calculate well lah, to just predict how many that it will cost you. It is a small scale prototyping. Okay, ada lagi soalan? Clear Any more question? Ya. Kat store boleh? Kalau kat store free. Dekat store tak ada masalah, unless for example you need to fabricate for certain joining ke, so on, for example you nak guna CNC pun boleh pergi dekat apa nama ni, production lab. For example cost of 3D printing, so I think if cost of 3D printing, that one kita kena calculate lah, kena masukkan. So I think in a small scale, perhaps you can 3D printing and other fabrication may be required lah for small scale. But never mind, for your project in terms of virtual prototyping, you could apa nama ni, come up with the ideal one lah. So that is never. But some for prototyping, we would like to prove the function, all the function is working. So that's it. Any more
Maksud
question?
yang function tu doktor, prototype small scale kami ni kena bergerak, kami gerakkan ke ataupun guna motor ke servo ke?
Itulah. So kalau for example you decide on your project tu ada motor, So it makes some movement ke motion ke and so on. So kita buat small scale tapi kita adalah motor-motor yang kita boleh guna. Semua servo motor ke macam tu lah. Kita tak perlu guna, for example, in your current virtual prototyping, you need to use visual calculation, analysis and so on. You nak kena pakai motor with 5 horsepower, for example lah. So kita tak belilah 5 horsepower tu. Tapi we define as a small scale, kita pakai servo motor ataupun DC motor yang ada lah. Okay?
Alright, Doktor.
Clear ke?
Faham.
Alright.
Clear.
Okay. Any more question? I think there is a form you need to fill in, and then I need to sign lah. That's it. So for the sake of system design punya class. Okay. So that is why if you don't want to have a busy schedule with I believe after mid semester break there are a lot of tests, quizzes, project and so on. So that is why these things, concept and initial design embodiment need to complete as early as possible lah, so that you can start fabricate early. So that's why virtual prototyping, you need to manage your team who will focus on developing details, working drawing and so on, and other people will be focusing on the development of the prototype. So yang tu pun kena ada lah. So that's why kalau you boleh consider small scale ni dia tak semestinya, kalau for example in your PDS you mentioned that your sizing is 1.5 meter, 2 meter and 3 meter for example. So maybe small size ni you boleh buat half 50 cm punya size, at least to prove whatever inside the virtual prototype it can be works once we produce the real one. So with a small scale condition lah. All the function, for example, movement and so on, it can be proved. So that is why to me 3D printing, you need to utilize a lot of 3D printing lah. Kita ada banyak dekat sini. So kita boleh guna lah.
Doctor, before this, you
Tak dengar Mirza, putus-putus.
long term and short term solution. So yang before this, doktor ada cakap pasal short term dengan long term solution. Yang tu perlu fokus lagi ke?
So you kena decide waktu scope tu. So kalau for example you focusing on the short term, so just mention you focusing for short term.
Waktu scope.
Yeah. Because
see.
long term solution, there will be no operator at all lah. Okay, for long term solution, there will be no operator at all. That is long term solution lah. For short term, we still need an operator. We still need a worker, but to control and so on. Just in terms of that only lah. Okay, if alright, I would like to proceed again. Saya nak pecah kepada group sekejap I think it is. Wait. Before that, I think I settle with the lecture first. Lecture note. Okay, I would like to recap a few things. I know that some of you have already submitted to me the assignment number 1 completed. I think all of the group have submitted. But somehow assignment number 2, I think group 1, group you Mirza did not submit. Right? Ke saya salah pandang? Functional analysis, functional structure, morphological chart. Group 1, group 2, group ni. Right? Only I think group 1 did not submit the functional structure.
Doktor. Which assignment, Doktor? One
Assignment number 2.
Oh, number 2. Okay.
Belum submit kan? Okay, tak apa, never mind. I will proceed with this one first. Okay, so this are the things that you have already conducted. But somehow for search externally and internally, I believe this is the things that on the way you come up with the morphological chart tu, sepatutnya this is you can complete this search external. as well as the search internal lah. Alright. Then come out morphological chart and then reflect on the solution and then as well as the process. Okay, I will not go into detail because I already explained to you about this. And I had saw your functional structure, and I believe, for example, I'm taken from the group 2. Group 2 here, come up with a good, I think, very good functional structure as well as morphological chart. Okay, very details and which a clear apa nama ni, clear figure lah. Okay, but somehow for group 5, I think, I don't know, group 5 you need to from your assignment number 1 and assignment number 2, I think there are a lot of things you are not details on that. Bubble map is not details. Objective 3 also simples, and once come to the functional structure and morphological chart as well, is too shallow to me. I don't know whether you make a last minute or you did not discuss into details. So after this, better you discuss into details. Okay. And group 2 is also okay, fine. But somehow group 2, your functional structure is not correct. Tadi assignment number 2. Sorry. Just now I mentioned that good example, group 4. Sorry. Group 2, your functional structure is not correct. Okay, you need to put in terms of wait, come back to this slide. Okay, you need to come out in terms of this. Okay, you have an input and then you have the process diagram or block process. So what are the flow inside here and then the output. But somehow group 2 did not come up with this kind of functional decomposition. You just mentioned about the block only. Okay. And then lastly about the group 3. Okay, group 3 also you manage to come out with these things. Okay, but somehow I failed to see clearly what is the input and output. Okay, I saw there is a switch on. All right, and then the process it, okay, the functional that you required, but maybe in terms of functional structure, I it's hardly to. Oh, sorry. Here is in here. Okay, but somehow can you put the. Okay. For group 3, I think better you separate between functional structure and morphological chart. Okay, I will show you later. Alright, so these are the things that you need. I have explained to you what we meant by the search externally previously and what do we mean by search internally. Okay, and then explore systematically through this concept combination table, which is morphological chart. Okay, right, so we have went through. Okay, we will go straight forward to the. Okay, this is what I mean by functional structure. So supposed to be every single group need to come up with this. We see the flow. Okay, morphological chart should be made in this way. Okay, because it is a morphology. Morphology, we are dealing with a shape to do activities, to perform its function. Okay, so that is why we require in terms of shape. I know some of you come up with the it is okay. You mentioned about the combination table. So for example, method of switch on, you highlighted number 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5. That is good already. But somehow it is better to put in terms of morphological chart table in terms of function. Okay. What else? Okay. For the concept generation, which you need to do after this. Okay, concept generation is basically you need to come up with the what we call as configuration. Okay, combination of, for example, vegetable picking device here I could say as A. Okay, for example, A is here, B, C, D, and E, F. For example, Okay, for example, for concept number 1, I just take name, for example, city, contek. So concept 1 is city punya concept. Okay, city chose A1. B4, C1, D3, E3, and F1. So this is combination table that you have selected. Okay, so you write in your sketch paper, concept number 1 is come from the double dot A1 plus B4 and blah 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 and so on. So every single sketching, I need to know what is your configuration, so that you did not miss every single function that you have stated in the morphological chart. All need to be highlighted in the uh, concept generation. Okay, is that clear so far? Boleh faham Okay, I will need lukis keluar maksudnya. You kena sketch lah. Kena sketch balik lah.
Doktor,
Alright.
kalau combination sama boleh ke?
Combination sama contoh.
Contohnya semua pilih bahagian satu untuk semua. Let's say
Itu
2 orang. Kan tak
tak
boleh? Tak boleh.
Dia, that's why kita tak boleh, konsep morphological chart lah. Boleh je contohnya ada 2 orang, pilih salah satu function yang sama. Ataupun 3 orang. Kata function A kan, you ada function A, okay, Mirza, Siti dengan siapa seorang, boleh. Tapi takkanlah daripada function A sampai function F, semua pilih
Semua
yang sama. Tu tak mungkin.
Boleh. Okay.
That one is bias lah.
Doktor, nanti doktor boleh bukakan balik e-learning sebab saya terlupa nak submit. Tapi dah siap dah actually.
Tak apa, nanti kita pergi pada breakout session, kita bincang kat situ.
Boleh, thank you.
Okay, right. So about the conceptual design, conceptual sketching, sketches in conceptual design. So what we meant by here is that there are a few things you need to clear up something. Okay, so what you need to explain in terms of your sketches, you can write as well in terms you can write in terms of mechanism, working principle also. You can write that things. Okay, so what you need to explain in the sketches is that in terms of function, form and components involved. If you ask me, doctor, is that we need to sketch exploded view? Of course, not to that level. Of exploded view, you need to have all the detail, all single part inside that. But somehow it is sufficient to mention, to state what are the component involved. Okay, sufficient only. Okay, for example, body cover, you put the cover, then you need to mention what is the inside mechanism there, having a gear and so on. So if, for example, you have draw a body there, so you need to explain details inside that. So you can come up with the detailed sketches at the corner of your sketching paper. Okay, level of detail. Okay, level of your sketching detail up to what level? It must be self-explanatory. Once we see your sketches, we could understand. You could guide us. Okay, you could guide me in terms of to understand that. Okay, the first one for working principle, the mechanism start with where, and then second step is where, the third step is where, and then finally, okay, at what level. Alright. So it come up with the must be self-explanatory. Okay, we see that, we can understand. You did not need to tell me or to tell other to tell your colleagues. We see that, we can understand. So that up to that level of detail. Then you could make a self-assessment, okay, by yourself to check whether your sketches are sufficient or not. Okay, do the sketches explain the working principle? This is the thing that you need to check. If you already sketch it, you already sketch, and you believe that I think better I'm explaining in terms of word, okay, to add additional information, explaining by word, also that is possible, but writing in that same sketching paper. Okay, do the sketches roughly show how the design is assembled, method, number of components and so on. This is I'm not going to detail on this particular part yet, but somehow it is good to having this. For example, you mentioned what is the main component here, how many part, how many normally, what is the main the main component there, so you can highlight that. Do the sketches reflect your PDS? This is the most important things. Okay. Alright. Before we go to your breakout session, okay, I would like to remind again, the first draft is really important in terms of your mark. How do I evaluate it? Because yes, it is not the final report. Okay, how do I evaluate? For example, you have submitted your first draft. Okay, you have come up with the objective 3 and so on. Your first draft, for example, out of, I just guess it, around 40 marks, for example, for example, 40 marks. You get half of it, 20 marks, for example, for your first report. And then I give back to you, this is my comment and so on, because you are not detailed, you are not discussed, because a lot of things have been told, but you did not perform accordingly. Okay. And then, for example, you get half of it. And then, eventually you discuss again with your team or your individual mark, you want to improve it on your full report. You can improve it. But the way I think I will take an average. I will plus the mark that I have assessed on the first report, and I will plus with the full report, and then we'll divide it by 2 for individual mark. Okay, as well as for the first part lah. Because full report will include as well the chapter 5 and chapter 6. So chapter 5 and chapter 6 will no more have an average lah. But somehow for chapter 1 until 4, there will an average for that. If you make some improvement. Okay, so that is the things that I would like to highlight to you. Okay, so is there any question tak related to concept generation? Okay, we will go to breakout session. I will create breakout session which is up to 6 breakout session. It refer accordingly to your group number lah. Number 1 go to breakout session 1, group 6 to breakout session 6 and so on. Okay. Macam assignment. Okay, I already create the breakout session. You may join by now. I will go each breakout session to discuss with you on whatever you have submitted previously. Okay, please move to your breakout session accordingly. Okay, go to participant, join the breakout session. Tak start lagi. Okay.
Test. Lo. Hello? Hello?
Testing.
Students, testing. What?
This. Lagging. Lagging kan?
You know? Back up.
Tak ada pun.
Tadi dia kata untuk apa?
Tak tahu.
Tahu.
Aku pergi toilet tadi, lepas tu balik tadi, masuk breakout section pula.
Tak ada pun doktor.
Ataupun yang breakout section ni untuk gosip je.
Gosip Gosip batik dah.
Atik mana Atik? Atik mute.
Ya, Tim, you're so terrible the internet dekat universiti. Lag.
Bisa? Kau lag kan bisa?
Dia lag 3 saat. Kau dengar suara kau?
Dengar. Masa je laju.
Dia ikut oh ya, ni aku dah tukar pergi ke data aku sikit. Hai. Yang budak international ni ingat ke Google Meet pula.
Baik. Wake up, Anma. Bye. Bye, wake up.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ayah.
Beli masing-masing ke atau sekali ni?
Test.
Hello.
Test. Hello. Hello.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Ayo Zatana. Sikit. Tino.
Yo.
Tino, jangan masuk KTR dulu Tino.
Actually, aku close contact guy. Aku kat ni, Kespat 7.
Apa?
Kau kontak dengan Atik kan? Kita dulu.
Tak.
Kita sama close contact.
Fahmi pun positif.
Fahmi positif.
Apa pun?
Positif tak?
Aku tak close contact je. Cuma kena buat quarantine lah. Sulit.
Kita close contact lah.
Attack.
Close contact. Kerja contact tak sama close contact.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Ya, Anwar masuk dah.
Hello.
Yeah, me.
Yeah, Anwar is here.
Hello.
Hey bro.
Okay je. Relax.
So is there anything missing guys from the assignment 2? Because just now you guys talked about configuration.
Only the morphological chart and also the function structure. Mofo. Atik is a mofo. It's so hot today.
It's not hot.
It's not hot.
It's not hot.
Atik not hot.
It's not.
The lecturer hasn't come in, so chill first.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay. Boleh tunjuk you punya functional structure dan juga morphology chart?
Boleh Doktor. Sebentar ya, saya nak share screen.
Hai Doktor.
Dah pindah bilik lah?
Ada tak?
Dah.
Ni semua sama blok ni.
Dah sihat dah. Dia punya wallpaper jadual. Bagus.
Sentiasa ingat kelas. Project brief. Ni ya. So kami start daripada yang basic dulu. At least dapat idea yang proper lah. Overall function diagram kami macam ni. Lepas tu ni functional tree.
Harvest palm oil tu tak perlulah.
Tak perlu ke? Okay.
So dia bukan input kan?
Apa Doktor?
Harvest palm oil tu bukan input. Betul?
Betul.
So you decide which
Punya palm oil tree ke Doktor?
tak. Nama pun because the name is function tree, functional structure. So basically you put function lah. What is the harvest palm oil tu function dia yang detail-detail ni kan. So at the input, the first one input, what is the function you require at the input phase? Apa function yang you perlukan?
Perlukan. Contoh Doktor?
Harvest ni overall activity, betul?
Betul?
Okay, the first untuk start, apa yang you function apa yang you nak buat?
Oh, cut dia.
Bukan, sebelum cut lagi apa?
Angkat machine.
Angkat mesin?
Lift the machine to the top of the tree.
Kalau itu that's kena letak tu dulu lah.
I see. Okay.
Kalau that is the first input ataupun the first
lift
input
first.
is user or
User.
operator. Operator tu dia buat apa? Function dia nak kena buat.
I see.
Then you move pada control and then has branches. Branches ni apa? Branches FFB.
So kami buat based on the slide. Dalam slide dia kata ada macam contain item. Tu yang kami buat macam tu. Sekejap ya.
Dia pergi pada you punya ni balik sebenarnya. Dia dalam slide guide dia.
I see.
Dia follow you punya apa nama ni required function lah. Dari
Ni kan?
mana saya rasa okey sikit ni.
Ini. Kami ikut yang ni. Sabar Tek. You're very distracting.
Ni for example provide coffee beverage. Tapi the first one tu ialah provide coffee beverage. Allow user brand coffee. Dia tapi has branch, contoh yang for your case, has branches ni apa? Pokok tu ada branches.
Macam daun-daun tu kan dia kena potong dulu baru dapat approach di FFB.
Contoh macam ni you kena fikir coffee maker ni kita nak buat dia punya how to contain the coffee. Branches tu pokok tu memang dah ada branches.
I see. Jadi tak critical lah.
You kena fikir bukan tak kritikal, dia tak perlu masukkan sebab pokok punya branches apa kena benda dengan you. You kena develop benda yang you perlukan. Okay, branches. Okay, we need to cut the branches. So how to cut the branches? So that is the things.
I see. Technically the cut branches ni okay, just has branches ni memang tak ada kaitan lah. Content FFB tak ada kaitan lah.
Dengan benda yang you nak develop.
I see.
To FFB or to reach at that particular level then that is important. Betul lah.
Okay.
Content FFB tak perlu lah.
Okay.
Faham
boleh.
Okay. Saya bagi contoh, ni antara yang okay lah. Bukanlah saya kata extremely okay. Bukanlah extremely excellent. Good lah. Jangan saya share. This is from group.
Kena share.
Handshake.
Handshake.
Share.
Kena share dulu.
Good Miza.
Daripada group berapa ni?
Sabar tak? You really
Distracting. You're really distracting.
This is apa nama ni, for example user define dia punya interface, dia punya operator. So the first step apa, control. So apa dia nak control? This is the
Okay.
phase yang dia buat lah. Move, dia nak move apa? So dia kata daripada control kemudian dia move. Ni pun saya tak clarify lagi apa dia nak buat. So locking, dia akan hold the machine position, stabilize machine. Kita nampak dia function apa yang dia required every single phase. Kemudian dia nak reach, so how dia nak reach, so dia nak cut and then transfer to the what. So this is, I believe this is the output lah. Okay, untuk transfer. So tapi the all process ni dekat dalam block diagram. So kita clear every single step yang dia buat tu dia nak buat apa. Okay?
Baik.
Lama-lama marah ada orang ni. Okay?
Okay.
Alright, so after this, okay, hopefully saya nak tengok konsep awal dah siap pada hari Khamis. Kita akan discuss macam ni pada hari Khamis. Kemudian by next week kita buat konsep evaluation lah. So if you want to leave this session also can. You want to create your meeting room pun also can. Okay?
Jaya just nak double check yang morphology pula.
Okay, yang morphology lupa.
Okay. Ni morphology kami.
Oh, semua pakai icon je ni. Turun lagi. So bila function structure tak betul, morphology tak betul.
I see.
So you kena clarify balik yang sebelah kiri ni. Dia punya function apa yang you required. So you kena tally balik lah dengan function structure tu.
Boleh. Okay. Yang ni kita punya overall function diagram, the big one.
Apa salah agak ni?
Kena recheck balik lah.
Ini pun kena clean up lah.
Contoh macam you kena imagine macam ni. Okay, I want to cut. Before untuk cut tu, what is the process function required?
Okay.
Paling mudah control lah. And then okay, how to cut? Another one.
Okay.
So untuk cut tu you perlukan satu so-called device ke machine ke. So untuk pasang the cutter and then to perform the cut. So you need to have the ataupun saya panggil primary mover lah. The primary mover tu, so you require that. So okay, macam ni primary mover punya shape. So okay, you kena imagine that process tu. So all the detail function tu nanti you kan buat dalam bentuk block. So which one is the main function? You kategorikan lah. Okay.
Okay, macam let's say yang cut branches ni nanti dia akan ada dia punya block dekat dalam lagi lah. For example yang ni.
Ada cut branches tu how to cut kan?
How to cut.
That one dibikin jadi morphology lah nanti. You boleh letak method 1 tu cut, method 2. Dekat dalam ni letak ayat je, tak ada masalah. Method 1 letak ayat. Tapi dekat dalam morphology set table ni you letak gambar. Bentuk tu macam mana. Macam ni, macam bentuk-bentuk ni dah okay. Cuma function sebelah kiri tu yang kena finalize kan.
Okay.
Alright.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye,
Thank you,
Doctor.
Doctor. I didn't really dengar properly. Apa dia cakap tadi ya?
Stop sharing screen. So first kita kena edit the one yang ada has branches sebab there's nothing to do with the design. And then the content FFBS apa tak sure whether dia cakap apa.
Kalau
Dia ni tak payah. Tu dah enter.
based on group 4 tadi, tengok dia punya function structure macam morphological chart. Dia macam just okay, for locking, what is the mechanism? Macam tu lah dapat group 4 buat. Dia macam mana?
Yang ni yang paling okay.
Dia macam ni. List out all the steps and then the main apa begitu? The main point tu dia ada branches lagi. Apa details.
Dia kata yang ni okay. Dia kata ni yang paling optimum lah tapi dia tak perfect. Apa yang tak perfect dia? Dia tak cakap lah. Dia macam ni group lain punya kan. Tapi
dia sendiri.
Tapi aku rasa in terms sebab basically function structure, function tree ni kena activity sahaja. As branches tak ada kaitan. Harvest form up is the overall. So this is sepatutnya control.
Maybe ada cut, ada lowering.
Macam yang ni, harvest form all ni, actually is the overall thing. Patutnya control input yang paling first. Control input and then something cut branches, something cut FFB and then access to FFB ni tak perlu kot.
Terus obtain FF.
Itulah sebab yang ni pun Control, move, locking, reaching, cut, transfer.
Ah,
So maksudnya kita kena tukar lah.
Tapi okay ke? Simple.
Jadi kita buat panjang sikit lah.
Macam mana?
Nanti tengok lah sana. Malam nanti lah. Aku pun tak nak buat sekarang ni.
uh,
Later night we meeting lah. We meet.
what
Boleh ke?
ada meeting lain tak sebenarnya?
Apa?
Meeting.
IP bila dapat?
Oh, Lisa. Kita kena buat.
Ni kita tak submit lagi ni oh. Kena submit je macam ni.
Tapi nanti
Markah ni.
kena improvise.
Apa? Improvise apa?
Ya, sebab kita kan dia
Apa? Kita ada benda nak buat ni. Ayah, atik ah menangis-nangis. Ayah. Tu.
So, mana?
No. IP siapa lead? Siapa leader?
IP semula
IP bila deadline?
esok.
Esok malam kan?
So,
Tentu korang ada
apa IP.
Jangan buat IP je tu. All day cuti kan?
so dia orang ada manager.
Alah, pagi kan?
Tak cukup ke? Tak. Nak share IP.
Alah, 2 slide je kot.
Just like
Maximum 2 slide. You didn't read lah?
Present.
Present 15 minit lah.
Okay.
Apa
Script.
Script tu, itu sendiri-sendiri punya tanggungjawab lah.
Ya.
3 minit seorang. Takkan online yang buat screen tak kau?
Okay. Diorang buat sekarang.
Ya. I think buat meeting malam ni kot.
meeting pukul berapa? 8 okey.
Aku kena double check. Syafiq tu nak buat meeting lagi. Syafiq tu. Nanti aku tengok. Ada orang yang boleh lead dulu lah. Tu. Okay. Tak apa, nanti Roger balik petang macam mana.
Okay.
Alright. Okay, see you guys later.
Okay, stay safe guys.